All right. Hello, everybody. Um, First of all, thank you for attending this panel discussion. I'm really excited about it. I'm also aware that in the Middle East, it's kind of around lunchtime. And we're stuck between two keynotes. So a lot of people think, well, this is a good time to have a nap or go for lunch. So thank you for showing up. Um, the way that I want to frame this leadership discussion is really, I know that a lot of you might not necessarily hold an official leadership position. I'm sure some of you do, but for those of you who don't, I also, we also believe that, most of us are leaders in other areas of our life. So in our classroom, in our families, or elsewhere. So the lens that we'll be using for this discussion is really to explore leadership in terms of how educators can build a culture of leadership that advances their career. So hopefully that will make it a lot more relevant. Hopefully, you will get lots of tips on how leadership can get you where you want to go, no matter what your status is at the moment. While we're waiting for the others to join, I just want to start off maybe with an activity that everybody can join in, as well as our esteemed panelists. I'm going to give you a word, and I want you to think of the first thing that comes to your mind. It could be anything, but it shouldn't be more than one or two words. Okay, so if you've ever played the game word association, this is kind of similar. Okay, so is everybody ready to play this game? If you want to, you can close your eyes for a second while you're thinking. Okay, so here is the word. Are you ready? The word is leadership. Leadership. Have a think. What is the word or words that come to mind when you hear this? Okay. So for panelists, no action for you to take right now, but I will come back to you in a minute. For everybody else, I'm really interested to see what word or words you came up with. So if you could type them into the chat, let's have a look at what comes up. What did you think of? So we've got teamwork, responsibilities. Interesting. What else have we got? Courage, accountability, effectiveness. Okay. Tamana says vocal. Interesting. Order. What else have we got? Caring. Any other ones? Inspire. Okay, so an interesting selection. Nobody chose the same words, which shows how kind of open this is. So just to recap, we've got inspire, caring, order, vocal, accountability, effectiveness, courage, responsibilities, and teamwork. So let me put this over to our panelists. Robert, you're the first person I can see. Tell us what was your word or words that you selected, and maybe give us a little bit of insight into why you selected the word, and maybe just a quick overview of who you are, just in case anyone doesn't already know you. I'm sure they do. You're on mute, Robert. You're on mute.
Right. Okay, so yeah, actually the first word really shows my inner nature. The first word that came into my head was run. I think, you know, when I'm in class, so I've been in high school classes, and I mentioned, right, let's do something about leadership, and half of the class go, oh, we don't want to be leaders, you know, and I understand a lot of people are like that. They don't particularly
Mm.
want to step up to be a leader, and so that may be the first word that comes into your head. And so I'm an international educator. I've been an international educator for 30 years, and quite short contracts in each place. So I've covered quite a lot of schools. I've also worked with the IB to visit schools, to coach schools, and now I'm in Iskenderun in Turkey, and I'm doing my own thing. There you
Mm.
go.
It's interesting that you mentioned that you feel that a lot of teachers want to run. That was your word from leadership. Normally, when we think maybe one of the reasons is that they feel there's a big divide in terms of being a teacher and being with students and having that kind of using their teaching skills to help it in a people business.
Yeah.
And then you move over to kind of the more administration side, which is a lot what leadership is supposedly about, maybe in the minds of lots of teachers. Do you feel that there is a happy medium where if teachers are able to move up and get promoted, that they don't just land into this heavy administration role and lose the essence of what teaching is about? Or does that just not exist? Is it one or the other?
It is difficult. I mean, in my career, I've been mostly in the leadership roles. I've been a curriculum coordinator or vice principal, secondary or head of a section. And so I've always managed to have a class because
Yeah.
I've always wanted that. Because that's why I went into teaching, because I enjoy it. It's a bit selfish, I enjoy it. Of course, in the classroom, you are a leader there, and what type of leader is very important. So it is possible to take on roles. And I think my thing was that when I began to feel that I understood where education should really go, I wanted to help other people to see that as well. And one way of doing that within a school, of course, is to take on leadership roles where you're sort of helping people to understand. You don't have to. You can just be a good teacher who's a good role
Yeah.
model.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Connie or Dr. Alia, what was your word?
I think when I think about leadership, for me, I think it's important to be
Sorry, what was your
someone.
word? What was your word, first of all?
Oh, my word? I
Yeah.
think it's
What do you
teamwork.
associate leadership with? Teamwork. Okay. So that was somebody else said teamwork as well. Why is teamwork so important for you in leadership?
Because I think leadership is about working together to be able to coach and facilitate the projects that you are working on, and you have to lead by example.
Okay. Short and sweet. Great. Dr. Nebila, are you here? No, maybe she...
Yes, she is. She is.
She is. Dr. Nebila, what word? I'm not sure if you missed the first part, but we were playing a game of word association, and I said the word leadership, and we were wondering what word or words come to mind when you think about leadership. Robert said run, and Dr. Alia said teamwork. So what's your word and why?
Light.
Tell us more.
Yeah, leadership. Hey, Paul. Leadership is light. Leadership is sharing your light and allowing others to share their light too. Leadership is about creation of new ideas, about vision, about using that space to create something new, because leadership, it's like staying here is good, but kind of performing at this level is good, but it's about reaching out. It's about going in that space that is above and beyond. It's about shining your light, meaning showing the way for others that it's okay to take the first step, to tread paths that haven't been taken before. It's about that courage and assertiveness, that it's okay if you take that first step, and even if it doesn't work out, that's okay to come back and pick up and start again. And it's a two-way street. It's not just about the leader shining his or her light. It's about also, but by showing the way, by showing that it's okay being vulnerable, it's okay to go there. There meaning use your creativity. And by the way, this is the exact same process that we use with students. It's opening their mind to step into a space where they can imagine and dream and create something that has never been created before. It could be a project, could be a task, it could be an approach, it could be an opinion they've never thought that they were allowed to express in the classroom. It's all about those spaces, because everything that has ever been created has been created because of the courage of leaders to allow people and enable them to open that space.
Thank you. So a lot, a lot packed in there. So if I can unpack it just to maybe summarize what everyone said, the theme that seems to run between all three of you seems to be kind of this idea of teamwork, inspiration, and pulling out the most out of other people. So getting the most out of others. And as you said, Dr. Nebila, that this is exactly what we do as teachers. So in fact, teachers they have the same skill sets as leaders in many ways. Dr. Nebila, a question for you. Who is the best leader you have come across, and what very specific, if you can pull out one out of the many things that you just mentioned, if you can pull out one superpower that they had that puts them above everybody. It could be a person that you know personally, or it could be somebody that you've never met before. Who is that person? And more importantly, what's the superpower?
I wouldn't go as far as mentioning a name.
No, you don't need to. No, you don't need to.
Very sensitive position.
Yeah.
But this is somebody I had the pleasure of working with him very closely. And, at times where, we are faced with something, a challenge, a question. Even we go to him with a question and we expect the answer from him. And he would be kind of silence. Beautiful, amazing, reassuring silence. And in that silence, you start getting thoughts and ideas. And as you are asking the question, I guarantee you more than 50% of the answer always comes to mind. And it's that oomph, it's that weight that a leader has, that that energy that he puts into you. And he says, you asked a question, but I know you can do it. And in that silence, we start coming up with answers. Or if we are a team around him, because we have board meetings with him, then it's that he didn't say anything. The guy wasn't all about saying and talking in silence. Silent, wise, reassuring. It's okay. Go ahead and start activating your mind and come up. You have the same mind as myself, so go ahead and then that's how our meetings were. And I you feel safe around that person. You around that leader, you feel really, really safe to explore your own breadth of mind and image. He unpacks you, he cracks you open, and it's a he.
Right. And I imagine it's very empowering as well if you are able to report to somebody like that. We've spoken a lot about the positives. Let's dig into just for the last few minutes into the negatives, because a lot of us live in this world where much of the time we're not so lucky, and we don't have a boss or a leader that we have a boss or a leader that has few of the qualities that we've just mentioned. And the easy thing for us to do as employees would be to kind of moan and gossip about them, and feel sorry for yourself for having such a terrible boss. So in this case, what would you recommend that we do, or maybe something that you have done yourself or you've seen somebody do that's been really effective in terms of kind of managing a boss that you don't necessarily get on with? Have any of you three, that's open to anybody, Dr. Connie?
It takes skill, and knowing how to deal with someone that you don't really get along with, where you might have had some conflicts. So you have to learn about their communication style, their leadership style, and what would be the best way to approach them, because maybe your style isn't working, and this is why you're having the clashes. So you have to find a different way. It's kind of like, if you're the eldest sibling and then you have a younger one, when they don't get their way, they tend to have a bit of a tantrum. So how do you handle that? So it's kind of like learning how to deal with someone in a respectful way, but at the same time, being able to continue to work together, because you're professionals. The first and foremost, you're professionals. So you have to learn how to communicate better so that you can achieve the goals and objectives that you have set out for whatever it is that you happen to be doing at that time. I mean, for me, this is extremely important. Communication is extremely important.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of the participants joining today, they may be in this position where fellow colleagues are getting on well with the boss that they don't. So it's not always a problem of the actual boss. It's as you say, Dr. Connie, it's maybe just a clash of personality, or maybe some kind of communication disorder from both sides. So it's trying to, what you're saying, I think, is putting the onus on yourself to try to see, okay, the way that I've been using to approach my boss or my leader has not been working. How could I find a different way or an alternative to make it better?
Exactly.
Dr. Nebila, Robert, anything else to add to that from your experience?
Yeah. Not getting along with the boss. Okay, let's unpack that. Number one, it's a two-sided thing. It's a two-way street. It's what is it telling me about me? That boss is reflecting something about you that you are not accepting, you are not observing, you are not seeing, you are fighting, you are resisting. That's one. Second thing, so empathy. Second thing, empathy. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what this gentleman or this lady is going through. So empathy, meaning accept that you don't know everything, but at the same time, you are extending a hand of empathy, not necessarily like going and talking or anything. This is the boss. At the end of the day, probably you don't even have access, but in your heart, the way, because this is about how you are approaching this, is that I don't know. Maybe somebody cut her off in traffic. She was late for a meeting. Her own boss chastised her. She had a rough day, or if it's a temperament or a mood or something that is regularly happening, but it's worth asking. Maybe it's about my perspective. Maybe what I'm seeing in that person is a perception. It's filtered by my own filter of looking at things and how I believe things should happen in the real world, that a boss should be da-da-da. And therefore, I'm not getting that image in this boss. Therefore, I'm resisting her. I'm not going to accepting her. I'm not going to get along with her. And it's all about unpacking that. So we said, try to not try. I don't believe in trying. I believe in either you do it or you don't. So you see, what is this telling me about me? Number one. Number two, empathy. I don't know what I don't know. And then three, resilience. It's about providing a safe space for each other so that, as Dr. Connie said, communication, we allow for communication and not expecting, zero expectation, not expecting the communication to go my way. Like if somebody, in the many years of leadership I had, one key thing, one that would spark conflicts is in certain cultures, when we are giving and receiving feedback, certain cultures start with what's positive and went down into where we can improve, and others start with upfronting what's not going on and then ease into the highlights of the feedback. Yeah. And it's the same. I mean, if you think about it, it's the same, but it's just about approaching this in different ways. So my three, perhaps, thing is explore what is it telling you about you. Two, empathy. And the three, provide a space of resilience where you are going to accept, you go without expecting anything. And then, and you are going to see the results.
Yeah, that's great. I really like those three, and I think hopefully people can take a lot away from that if they are in that situation. I love that first one personally. What is it telling you about yourself? That's a really good question. So if you really reflect on that, I think the answers can be really interesting from that. And you said empathy and resilience, which is great. Robert, I think we're winding down now, but the last word to you. Have you got any other gems of wisdom for this particular topic?
Sure. I think, be true to yourself. It's, for example, I got to a point, and I've seen other people do it. They've done it with me, actually, where they can't work out what's wrong. The leader's saying something, you're doing, you think what you're doing, what you think is right, but there's something seeming to be wrong. So book a time, sit with the leader, try and drop egos. I mean, you can't get rid of ego 100%, perhaps. Some people say it's not good to get rid of it 100%, but manage your ego, get rid of that, help them to do that by saying, look, I want to do my best. I want to be a good teacher in the school, or I want to be a future leader. Can you help me? Can you coach me? Can you mentor me? Can you give me some time every now and then? I feel that I'm not getting something quite right, or there's something that's coming between us. I think in some cultures that's quite difficult to do that, to actually go and be as direct as that. So you might write it to start with. You might ask those questions in writing, or you might find, I'm sure, in those cultures where that direct way is not applicable, I'm sure that indirect ways to do it. Yeah, it must exist. The way must exist for you, because whether your leader's good or not, you want them to succeed so that your school succeeds, your job succeeds, whatever it is. So reach out to support them as a first step. Maybe that'll work.
Yeah, yeah. I really like that. I think sometimes if we stay silent, it kind of brews for a long time. But finding in the right cultural context, finding the right way to kind of approach it and be a little bit daring to bring it to the surface. As long as it's culturally sensitive, I think the leader would appreciate that, because they also want to, they will also feel that kind of that tension, and they want to find a resolution. And sometimes we always think it's the leader who should take the first step, when you know, a lot of leaders, they have 20 reports and they just don't have the, it's not that they don't care, but they just don't have the bandwidth to always be doing that to each of their reports. So
here's a challenge.
So, yeah.
Here's a challenge to those teachers out there, all those leaders out there. How do you, as the class leader or the leader of teachers, how do you get your staff or your children to feel that they can do that? Well, that would be a superpower, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that comes back to what actually both Dr. Connie and Dr. Nebila said, in terms of having that energy about you, that you're open, your door is open, and you know, you're open-minded enough to be that person who is approachable, to be that empathetic, have that empathetic mindset, and be a listener as well. And as I think Dr. Nebila said, just stay silent sometimes and see what comes out from that silence. And sometimes amazing things can happen just by being there and listening. So I think we're out of time.
Paul, can I just tag
Yes.
on that? Just and I think it kind of sums up what Robert was trying to say, is that, you know,
Sure.
a leader is make others feel safe to speak up. So
yeah.
I know I'm being an effective leader if others feel safe to come to me and speak about their issues, their questions, and their concerns. This is a great, it shows the qualities of a great leader.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic. So so I hope everyone listening got some good takeaways if you are in this position. And yeah, it's I wish you the best for the rest of today. And if you are interested in leadership, I look forward to welcome any of you to my session, which is later today. But I'll hand it over to Maria. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul, for moderating the session. It was really enlightening. I love all of these panelists here. Personally, I have a personal connection with each one of you, even the moderator, Paul. I really appreciate you having us enlightening with your experience and your thoughts and your expertise in this field. If we have any questions now, we will take it from the audience. We have 5 minutes to take your questions, and then we will move on to our other sessions. If you want to communicate directly, you're most welcome to open your mics and communicate with the panelists now, or I can read it out to you. Any
maybe for the questions, if you have a question to everybody, maybe you can just say all, and if you have a question to a specific person,
yes,
just write their name.
That would be nice as well.
That will make it a little bit easier.
See if we're good leaders that inspire people to ask questions.
Well, you have inspired it already, so we are speechless now.
Good point, Robert. Good point, Robert.
Yeah, so everybody's just thanking you, and they're saying they enjoyed the discussion a lot. Thanks to all the participants and everything.
There's one question in the chat box. I think, Robert,
yes,
you answered it, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, there wasn't there? Yes. What
yeah,
do
you have some advice? Yeah, on navigating leaders who are not receptive to change.
So my answer to that was a little bit subversive. I think sometimes you have to be. I mean, it depends. I mean, if you come in and you think change should be happening and it's not, if you've really tried and you've gone and you've talked and you really think, and lots of everybody else also thinks that this change needs, you need to change. First thing to do is to make all the easy changes that you can towards that thing happening, so that it's not a pressure on that person to happen, but then maybe they begin to see that it is actually easy to change. It would be okay if that changes. I don't know if that makes sense. It was something that happened with us. We made lots of changes around an issue, and then actually it was a foregone conclusion, really.
So, Robert, I would like to ask you a question. Like when we had our conversations about this topic, you went on saying that teachers are leaders in the classroom. So as we have lots of teachers here joining us today, would you like to add? And then we'll take a question from Feroz right after. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you've got to be very aware of, I've met many teachers who don't like when we start talking about leadership, because they say, well, I don't want to be a leader. But there's two things. You are the leader of the classroom, and the other thing is you are there to provide opportunities, create opportunities, identify opportunities for these young people to develop those attributes, those superpowers. So you're making opportunities in your classroom for them to develop, being able to work with other people, being able to communicate well, knowing what to do when there's a difficult situation. So you really need to know. You don't have to be a school leader or you want to go on to be a leader, but you are that leader in the classroom. And so what sort of leader are you going to be?
Right. That's very interesting. So someone is asking, okay, I'll take Feroz's questions first, and then Feroz, you go ahead, please. You have your hands up since a long time. Hello, Feroz, do you want to?
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, you are. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much to all 4 panelists. My question is very specific to all of you. I would like to kindly request you to provide us with the best example of leadership personally, either something you accomplished or achieved. We can go on asking you some general questions about leadership, but you've provided tons of insights already. And the time frame of the session wouldn't allow us to go into further depth. So I would personally ask each one of those panelists to kindly give us the best example from their personal experience. That would be the best takeaway for all of us. Thank you.
If I may go, I hope this will answer your question. Is that for me, as a leader, I'm Vice Dean of the College of Humanities and Sciences and Director of the Teaching and Learning at my own institution. And for me, I became a Principal Fellow of the Higher Education Academy Advanced HE. So leading by example, I take learning extremely important. As a leader, I have to learn. So I incorporate professional development and continuous learning into my practices because it's something that I value and I understand, and I want my team to continue to learn. So for me, I hope this answers your question. For me, it's the continuous learning, because I learn. I hope to learn from my team members, as well as I hope that I can help facilitate their learning as they grow through their careers. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Nebila, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So my personal take on how do you pass this test of being a good leader? And the test is when you leave behind a nicer group of capable people. You've trained enough people behind in such a way they continue to leave the place and your presence won't be even felt. I think leaving, that's the best thing you can do to the place, you can do to the people, is leave behind enough leaders to continue the work, to continue the process, because it's beyond our person or anything, but leave behind enough people to continue those are my 2 cents.
But you missed every second, Dr. Nebila. And so are you, Dr. Connie, when I left you. So you have left leaders behind, but nobody can be in your shoes. You are one of a kind to us.
That's something I take to heart, Maria. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all the panelists and the moderator, Paul Grainger, to joining us today. And we really loved your session. And we hope to see you in our future sessions. Thank you so much.